Sculpting Game Store Retail Chapter 2. We're in our section about retail science. We've talked about our decompression zone, the view from the front door, creating culture through climate with AC, and now we're talking about counter placement. So you'll notice in our store that very close to our front door we have our counter, and that's because in a game store, especially a friendly local game store, shoppers are going to expect a human touch. They want a human connection early in their visit, and that's why our counter's up front. Now, it's not true of every customer that they want a human touch. Some of our gamers are a little introverted. Some of them don't like to talk to people too much. Some of them will kind of keep their head down and go straight to their section, and they're going to find their mini and they're going to paint it for hours, and they're going to be happy in the silence of that, and they don't want some chittery little worker disrupting that. So you kind of got to read the customer, but you can't read the customer if you can't see and greet the customer. So a counter should be close to the front door so that you can make an early greeting. This also will help you with theft reduction. It'll help you with building retention for customers, building relationships where you can ask them questions, get to know them. It'll help make your game store personal. So you want to place your counter where staff can make eye contact with incoming guests. This is able to make it so you can greet without being pushy, so that you can easily be asked questions, so that you're not hard to find. Now, when someone walks in, there's lots of different things you can say, and that'll kind of be tied to the theme or how you want your game store to go. Hopefully it's not tied to the individual staff member or the hour they're working, unless that's pretty purposeful. Welcome to Mindsculpt Games is one we'll use pretty often. We do want people to feel welcome. Now you could try like puzzles are up front, board games are on the back wall, but that, we cover so many different products in our building. Now we don't specifically want to create a map for the customer verbally when we can instead create a map for the customer visually with our signs, with our aisles, with our lines of sight, but we do want to greet them. Now I'll be honest, in our training documents, I have, I think, a 4-page document that's about the type of hospitality we want to offer in Mindsculpt Games. And it'll talk about the counter placement, people walking in, how we want to greet them, what questions we might want to ask. One of the things we want to offer is that our door here is not just for the retail experience. We can point them to our calendar, we can point them to the gaming events, but we can also point them, like somebody's new to town, right? And they're obviously shopping the Pokemon cards. And I say to them, hey, have you checked out the Facebook group attached to our business page, which is Pokemon Players of Mindsculpt Games? I think there's over 100 people in there that have been in this store and play Pokemon, love Pokemon. So if you're new in town, maybe go browse that and see if there's anybody you know, or post that you're looking for a game, or try our Pokemon Club event, or come to our next pre-release. So that walking in this door and talking to the people at the counter isn't just a way to transact your money for product, but it's a way to become part of a community. Now, we don't want to be gatekeepers that keep people out, right? But we want our counter to be a gateway that can bring people in. If you know somebody new to town, or you're new to town, and you walk into your friendly local game store, you should find a pathway to find people you can talk to. We don't necessarily have to create friendships. We don't necessarily have to, be the basis for the early dates that create a marriage, though that's happened. Friendships definitely happen. But we can very easily tell people, you're interested in this? Well, a lot of people interested in that come to our store. Why don't you check out this Facebook page or this group? Our Magic Players of Mindsculpt Games has almost 200 people that have walked in our store, been told about that, joined it, or had somebody connected to them, connect them to that. And that means that they can find games at our tables, or they can find kitchen table magic in a group that they like. How many Dungeons and Dragons games have started because someone talks to someone at our counter, hears that there's a Facebook group for that in our area, goes in there and posts, I'd like to start a new campaign, I'm DMing, do any players want to join me? Or, hey, I'm a new player looking for a game. That's actually easier because we have that at our tables, that you could join our one-shots anytime, meet some friends there, maybe join the group after for long-term at the tables, or maybe join the group on the Facebook page so that you can build those connections and find a community. Now, a couple other things that happen, I'm going to bring you in closer here. we have up front here, we have some small items. Now, a counter will create proximity for an employee and a customer. And that is good for building relationships, for asking questions, for creating personal connections that, somebody just gave us a good review the other day and they mentioned one of our employees by name and said he's a good dude. And that's because he's been here to talk to people, right? He's been around to make connections, and that's part of the experience, part of the job. We're a family-owned local business. Lots of people will know or mention Darcy or Daniel by name, and you don't have to like us necessarily to visit Mind Sculpt Games, but when we're here and we interact with you, we can give you a personal touch, and maybe you will like supporting the family, supporting the community, finding the products here. You don't find the Waltons at Walmart, but you do find the Leeches at Mind Sculpt Games, and we're very different than the Waltons in terms of like scope of business or how many years in business or how much money. A lot different, right? But what allows to happen in a friendly local game store at the counter is not just money transactions, it's connection to community, and it's building relationships with a small retail store that hopefully has pretty consistent employment. Now, your counter gains extra benefits if, as a business owner, that you can work to build positive retention for your employees, because if part of your counter experience is building relationships, the longer you can get people to work for you, the better. So treating your employees well as a small business owner is really important because they are part of your key to the community. Now, when we have these small items up here, a lot of people, their entryway to Pokemon is going to be, collecting their favorite EXs or GXs, or going through and trying to find all the gumshoes that they can. So we have $3 boxes up here, and these cards potentially could be stolen. They're easy, they can fit in a pocket, right? But by putting it next to our counter and having our counter by the door and having the proximity of someone who can build relationship, but also has eyeballs and a voice, we can try to make sure that this product, when it leaves the store, is paid for. And that's pretty important, because when we talk about overhead again, shrink, loss, theft, those will be factors that work against your overhead, and that mean that your margin is actually thinner than you think. When those difficult situations come up, like construction on your street, COVID shutting you down, product being in a muck, or you can't get production because, I don't know, tariffs go up or something and you can't really order product. All those possibilities are built in by margin, and your margin goes down if you allow people to steal from you. So while we want to sell easy to grab Pokemon, people are much more likely to buy things they can touch. Singles, I think I have like 500 different, ultra rare plus Pokemon over here. And to be able to sell those well, people need to be able to touch them and browse them. And that does create theft risk. But if you put it by your counter, if you have proximity, there's only so many items you can fit here. But, small dice, packs. We've got collector boosters over here for Magic. We've got browsable Pokemon pins. We've got Gashapon tokens. Those machines really can't be stolen from, but the coins might be. But if you can transact with them at the counter, it's a little bit safer for the customer, and they understand a little bit better. So Gashapon tokens kind of have to be explained, right? Quarter machines used to be a quarter. Our tokens are $4, but there's really cool things in there, and you can get the quarter, the new quarter, the Gashapon token up here, and use it there. So our counter is very close to our front door, right outside our decompression zone. Your view from the front door will include a smiling face who has not a script to follow, but guidelines to follow that we try to build into each training experience for each new employee. Hopefully, through good treatment of our employees and strong hiring, we can build relationships through our employees to customers. So not all relationships are dependent on me as the owner, but that we can build employee skill training sets and pick the right people who are just naturally good at building relationships with our types of customers. And then our counter can become a nexus for community and connection and facilitate transactions. But the main goal of a counter in a friendly local game store isn't to transact, it's to connect. And once you build that in, you walk in the door, you connect to the employee can connect you to play groups or interest groups or trade groups All those things make your experience more worthwhile in your retail business. Whether it's a friendly local game store or a fish store or whatever it might be, a counter near the door is staple to retail science because it allows the connection to begin. It makes your business more than items and dollars. It allows people to ask questions or be guided, but also just to be human and talk to people and maybe find other humans that they might enjoy outside of the staff that they can also talk to about their passion products. Counter placement and greeting are really important. Our counter is about 15 feet in from the door, just outside the decompression zone. We do have training systems to make that counter experience pleasant for the customer, including the customer who doesn't really want a lot of talking when they go to the game store because they're going to spend hours painting alone. We have a whole spectrum of different customers. We need to have adaptive hospitality, adaptive greetings. Aggressive hospitality isn't right for everybody, but the early counter experience allows for a read on the customer, what their needs are, how they can best be met, and then our employees, who are naturally good people, can use some of the training systems and their knowledge and love of gaming to be a good game advisor and help people connect to the right item in the store.